Hey guys, welcome back to Love Money Venus. I'm Emily Litzel. I am your astrologer. We are going through the astrology for the week of February 14th to February 20th. Yes, this week starts on Valentine's Day, and it also starts a pretty busy, pretty eventful work week. So I don't know if you're going to get to have as much fun as I would wish for you on this Valentine's Day, but hopefully you are at least spending it being well loved and well respected, because nothing less will do for my viewers. I want to thank you guys for recent feedback and chiming in on the future of my brand and where that stuff is going. I completely agree that a rebrand is due. I'm so surprised by how quickly I outgrew the brand I started all this with. I just really didn't know what kind of a miraculous path I was going to be on. I didn't know I was a financial astrologer, and now we all do. And I'm so excited. But that is going to come out with its own timing, with its own perfection, if you will, planetary perfection. And so I'm going to stick with Love Money Venus for now. We just have a lot of work to do and a lot of stuff to go over this week. Okay, so starting this week off, Valentine's Day, which looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting one. We have the moon moving into Leo, and we also have Mercury moving into Aquarius. Mercury moving into Aquarius is going to be one of the more significant things to happen this week, and you're going to feel the energy like straight off the bat. Mercury being the planet that rules our markets, of course, rules currencies, rules our thinking, our communications, how we process and analyze things. And the move from Capricorn to Aquarius is one it's made already. So we already kind of got a hint of where these themes were going to go. But when Mercury had a chance to move back into Capricorn, taking us back into the subjects of the house that Capricorn rules for us, we had a chance to go back and fine tune whatever was being kind of like revealed to us that had to change in our thoughts or our habits. How we speak might need to reflect new circumstances that we have, because Mercury in Aquarius is like, that's the language of the outsider. That's the language of the outcast and the futurist. And when you are in the process of speaking that language, it's not a Mercury placement where it's easy to connect with others on the things that you're trying to express. And especially if you are somebody who has a calling or is meant to really be processing or putting together systems that don't yet exist, that very like Uranian information being downloaded so that it can be made manifest, right? That's another big theme of these retrogrades that we have with Mercury throughout the course of the year. They're all in air signs and they go back into earth signs. So it's this potential of taking something very mental from Aquarius that you were starting to get this kind of a system or a program or something that was coming to you like, hey, that might really work. Take it back into Capricorn, an earth sign known for its ability to build concrete, tangible stuff that you can see, right? And now it's coming back into Aquarius. So this is very likely something that you can see the shape of, that you kind of know what you're working with in this sense. But it's also where you have to go into uncharted waters. You don't have as much book learning. You don't have experts necessarily leading the way before you. You have to kind of pick and choose the information that comes to you and figure out how it applies to your means. Like Mercury in Aquarius and Mercury Uranus contacts, like just in general, just make me think of the word brainstorm, like something where you just kind of have to like let it fly. A sudden like flash of inspiration comes to you and you just sort of have to spitball. That's very Aquarian Mercury to me. Okay, I had the wrong chart up, but I really liked where I was going with that, so I'm going to let it be. So, like, one of the things that I think a lot about with Mercury and Aquarius, this is also about refining a system that is personal to you, the one that you use, especially when it comes to in terms of astrology. Like, I'm interacting and I'm like have the most amazing community of astrologers around me right now. And some financial, some that work with like totally use astrology for different purposes altogether. All of them are very systematic. They have clear ways that they go about things and very objective goals that they're trying to reach, right? Something that has a measurable outcome, where astrology can be kind of subjective. Psychological astrology can be a lot more vibes. And we're working in kinds of astrology that you use astrology to create a certain effect. You know, you choose a date that you're going to launch a business or get married because you want to see that marriage or that business hold the qualities of the birth chart that you've chosen for it. Or financial astrology, where you're literally attempting to predict what the markets are going to do. There isn't any wiggle room in that. It's all a learning experience that has measurable data that comes from it. And that is very Mercury and Aquarius. It's also a really good argument for why it's important to know what your system that you use is. Of all the astrologers that I'm following, very few of us use exactly the same systems, especially in financial astrology. It's not really the time to be picking up somebody else's analysis. It's not the time to be using somebody else's system that works for them. This is about making sure that you know what works for you. And one thing that you really want to look into is, where are your trades coming from? Like, we all have people that we follow that are longer, more established in the market, but at some point you do need to be making your own trades. And if you don't feel like you have the technique or the skills, this would be a fantastic time to start correcting something like that. Say it's astrology and you've gotten you've started to get really talented with this and know a lot of what's going on, but you're not quite at the place where you can read your own chart. Like, it might be time for you to learn how to do that so you can have more autonomy over your own astrology and taking less from other people. Not that I want to lose the views, I always want you to be here and checking in, but that's my point. This is about trying to find your own data and figure out what that is. Like I said before, this is the language of the futurist. I remember reading a story that somebody had retweeted saying this is a masterclass on innovation. And it was about T-Pain and his relationship to other rappers in the industry and how much scorn and derision he gets treated with from his peers because he was the first to use autotune. And even though he has so many hits, he's made so much money, he's such a prolific artist, and now autotune is a standard that all of the artists that were bagging on him use all the time, and many of them had their own careers reinvented because of it. But because he was the first, because he was doing something that nobody else had heard before, and it wasn't cool yet to on it, he had to deal with all this baggage and real depression and a lack of respect that he deserved the entire time, because sometimes that's what it looks like to walk ahead of everybody else. Sometimes that's what it feels like to have to create something into this world that doesn't exist yet, that you don't have the cultural support yet of people who know what you're doing and what you're talking about. So I do feel especially with the Leo full moon that's on the way, this could really be an uncomfortable centering or a spotlight that you don't have any choice. You have to step into it. You should be fairly uncomfortable with the stuff that's coming up. I don't even know how to say this, but if you're comfortable, then you're not using these stars to the best of their advantage. You need to be outside of your comfort zone. You need to be Aquarian and be willing to go to a place outside of all this creature comfort so you can look at the big picture and see the whole story and get a chance to reinvent the big picture. Okay, so the moon moving into Leo in Monday is going to be a shift, because technically this is the moon in Leo. We think of it's ruled by the sun. We think of it as a playful, creative, childlike energy, right? That has kind of a high level of drama and fun attached to it. But in this case, we have the moon making aspect only in oppositions with the sun and Saturn. It's in aversion to everything else, right? Because there aren't any trines, there aren't any squares, there aren't any sextiles coming up. It's going to be a much more structured Leo full moon than you might be used to. And as it's coming up into that opposition, which is the full moon, before then it has to go through a moon-Saturn opposition. On Tuesday, after Valentine's Day, we move into the Moon-Saturn opposition, and we have this Mars-Venus conjunction. So it's not that there's not drama, it's just that it's separate from this moon and what it's exposing. Okay, because this moon is square the nodes, it's going to have that fated, predestined quality that the nodes have with it, except it's going to be in square. That's a an aspect of conflict and tension. So this is kind of like a fated events getting delivered to you via conflict, via struggle, via something that isn't necessarily like comfortable, like the friction makes the spark that lights the fire sort of situation. And within that, I will also like point out that we only have now Venus and Mars left in Capricorn. So it's like the planets of action and attraction. Our means of getting this, like the methods that we use, may be still very Capricornian, but everything else is moving into Aquarius. Everything else is telling you to, and by Capricornian, I mean a little bit of like what's traditional, what's established, what we stand upon. And Aquarius is kind of like the outer space of it all, right? Like you finally like launched yourself into the atmosphere, and now you have to figure out what to do there and how to thrive. Every planet we have is direct right now, so you already have all the forward momentum of that propelling you. And then this full moon, which is going to be really lighting up in stark relief whatever's going on in the house that Aquarius rules for you. Because the moon is a planet of reflection, right? So when it's opposing the sun, it's reflecting the sun's light back to it. So you can finally, like the sun is our identity, our body, ourself. It's a chance to see ourselves in a different way. Even though it's a full moon in Leo, the Aquarius issues are going to be front and center for a lot of reasons. There's going to be something where you're going to have to commit and just be like, okay, this is what it is. There's no chance to go backwards. I don't have time to move back. You don't have any other retrogrades bringing you back into Capricorn. It's all moving forward from here. And you need to know what lessons are coming out of Capricorn with the last of Mars and Venus. By the time they move out, we're finally moving on, right? The sun's going to move into Pisces. Like there is finally something joining like the whole Pisces party over here, and it's going to feel really good. But that's later in the week, and you have to get through this hellish work week first. Just like giving it to you honestly. Okay, so we move into Wednesday. We still have Mars and Venus exactly conjunct, and we have our full moon, and everything for fixed signs is going to be very intense on this day. But the good thing today is this is a peak in the energy. Once the moon moves past this and separates from the full moon, two things happen. The intensity should lessen a little bit, and also because this moon is occurring so late in the sign of Leo, the moon is going to go void exactly afterwards until it makes it into the sign of Virgo. So there's a few hours in the day that might have you just feeling kind of like listless and like what happened as you integrate everything, because the moon is void and it's no longer aspecting everything. Really only aspected the nodes, Saturn, and now the sun. So it's really kind of been that kind of a week, right? Everything has a heaviness to it. Everything is, a lot's on the line, right? Your decisions and your participation and the amount of effort that you put into it is going to matter. You're going to know if you are not, if you're not producing, if you're not showing up for things. I think Saturn is a lot about capability too. Like this has got to be your honest to God best effort week. Regardless of what outside circumstances are being thrown at you, if you have very, very, very valid reasons to be off your game, this is a week where it doesn't matter. And I say that as gently as possible. I say that to me too, because I can be completely sporadic in my output. This week is not, that's not an option. And you can lean into this little Mars-Venus thing a little bit. Best handled through sex and exercise. Honestly, like that's just what Mars-Venus is known for. It makes exercise pleasurable and sex even better. So those are two things that will help you through almost anything this week that comes at you and feels too challenging to go forward from. Thursday, we have our Virgo moon. So first, you've had this heavy Saturnine stuff kind of revealed with the full moon in Leo, which is in your best interest. It's going to put you to a new place in your destiny, but this is kind of where you're like charged with like the hero's battle, right? Like the first mission you get is not an appealing one. It's just something that you have to do whether you're ready or not. And then we have the moon, our insides, our emotions, our inner selves moving into hypercritical Virgo and opposing Jupiter in Pisces, which is known for its excess and its love of detaching I mean, Aquarius is more detaching. Pisces is a little bit more dissociating. Like, you just do not want to be in your reality at all anymore. The temptation for overindulgence is here. The moon in Virgo really just doesn't like it. You might need a little bit more care, but like the care that you need is a solid bedtime, solid nutrition, and a regular like yoga schedule. The Jupiter in Pisces is going to be like, you should be day drinking, or like, let's go drive recklessly, and like, so we can finally feel something that isn't stress. Don't give into it, right? This is a fleeting, passing thing that passes after the morning. And then towards Thursday evening, a little bit later and into the night, the moon is going to trine that super sexy Venus-Mars conjunction in Capricorn, and you get this really wonderful earth sign trine. So another fantastic way to take care of yourself. Again, big pitch for sex. And if you have a partner, again, just make it Valentine's week and go for it. Those Virgo and feelings of insecurity are going to be just absolutely awful. And there may be a really strong temptation to do anything you can to get away from it. But that is not going to be an effective coping strategy for this week. We get into Friday, we still have Mars-Venus conjunct. This is energy that is just going out through the week. I've seen some people on Twitter talking about, and on Discord talking about using this to start exercise programs because it can make it so much more fun to just move your body in ways that you haven't before. Especially strenuous exercise can become like really a pleasurable thing. A lot of us are already there, but if you're not and you kind of like want to know what that's about for you, that's a great use of this week. If you have a traditional 9 to 5, Saturday is coming with some very different energy. We have this lovely, the moon moves into Libra, Aries Libra, right? And things get a little bit more detached in the favor of balance. You are less over analyzing everything with the Virgo energy and more kind of into where's the harmony of it all, right? Diplomacy starts to take a little bit more of a center stage. And it's in this airy trine to Mercury. Air is the most mental of the triplicities to begin with. This is going to be a moment where you're allowed to integrate the innovation that you've been forced into, that you know that you have to be the originator of. Whatever that is, where you have to bring something to this world that does not currently exist from Aquarius the inventor, you're going to have a chance to get more settled with that. And especially because we have the sun moving into Pisces. The sun is not necessarily in its best condition when it's in water signs, so Pisces seasons can be a little bit sleepier and slow moving, but also a really wonderful time to let the ego recess and the intuition come forward a little bit. I've heard about this technique and I do something similar, especially before I'm getting ready to film these or anything that's important to me, where you actually mentally go through the phases of everything that you're going to do, or you play it out almost like it's a movie playing through you, how everything's going to feel when you move like this, what it's going to sound like when you say that, right? Like, it's just a technique to get you into the game in a way that by the time you get there, you feel like you've already been there before. And that's what I feel like the sun moving into Pisces with the same day that we're having this moon Mercury trine, like, it's a chance to daydream your way into that existence so that you feel more familiar when you're actually like taking your steps there because you've been there before, even if it was only in your mind's eye. That's my favorite use for Saturday. Mars is pulling ahead of Venus, which is a kind of significant shift because she was leading the way on this never-ending conjunction they have. Mars takes the upper hand in this. So the one good thing is that Venus is released from being caught in between Mars and Saturn, and that was not a happy position for her. The bad part of this is that in that conjunction, Mars takes the upper hand, so it becomes a more Martian experience. But I don't think that you're going to be feeling too much activation from that just yet. That's probably going to come on Sunday when the moon squares Mars and Venus, who are now conjunct again with Mars leading the way. The Mars-Venus square from the moon, I wouldn't be too concerned. It just looks like some irritability in the love life, which may be coming from the fact that the moon-Saturn trine has you wanting to work, has you wanting to build. Your mind might be here. This might be what your heart is kind of focused on and maybe not on partnership. At the moment, we saw that Pisces sun, which is asking you to daydream and imagine and really let your spirit open up to the possibilities that are in front of you. That's going to be a necessary ingredient and the recipe of actually making this stuff manifest and real in this life. And everything's happening in Pisces. There's going to be more of an experiencing of it. Like, it's going to be happening to you instead of you having to affect all the changes. This week starts off with a big bang. And there is really a lot being asked of us this week, but I'm excited. And I think everybody's going to be able to rise to the challenge. But it is going to be sort of, there's less hand holding that's going to be available for whatever reason. If you're looking for too much reassurance from external sources, you could be very disappointed this week, because this isn't a week that's for that. This is really about autonomy and innovation and originality and independence, right? With Mercury moving back into Aquarius, coming back over these points from Capricorn, you are now that's it. You're going. You have to start to really think through all of the angles of whatever it is that you're taking on and whatever it is you're creating and establishing, and figure that shit out. And that is you actually have a lot of cosmic support for that. This is a week for stamina, and this is a week for endurance, and this is a week for an open mind and a spirit that is ready to take on anything. If you start this week with the confidence that no matter what is put in front of you, have to sort of view yourself as your own hero this week. I don't know how else to say it. If you you have to really gas yourself up in the sense of anything that comes to me, I can handle. I'm here for whatever the planets throw at me, and I am let them know. Say that. Be I can do hard things. I am here for that. I am ready to be challenged. Let me know where you want me, and I will be there. Put me in, coach. There are no limits to where you can go, but you absolutely have to be a willing participant, right? You have to be a co-creator in this reality. The planets aren't going to do it for you, but they will definitely be showing you. You will have the signs of what is expected from you, what you are destined to do, and you will have the tools. And that's it. And then the rest is up to you. And I know that you can absolutely make it happen. And everything's going to be good. But let's go into Bitcoin and have a talk about that and what that can be looked at for the week, and generally market stuff. Okay, on Monday, Bitcoin starts right off with Mercury conjunct its Jupiter. This separates towards the afternoon just as Mercury is going to ingress into Aquarius, which could show some temporary downside for both the markets and for Bitcoin. But I expect that to be fairly short-lived. Maybe things a little static through Tuesday, not a lot to see here. Wednesday could be a day of downside for the markets and for Bitcoin and for everybody. This fixed full moon grand cross does look a little testy for geopolitical tensions. So at the very least, this does kind of look like there could be a big threat of something, which might not come to pass, hopefully, because the next day on Thursday, we have this hyper bullish Jupiter-Uranus sextile, which is a very risk-on aspect. And it looks like we would see a rebound from whatever bummed everybody out with the full moon on Wednesday. Moving into Friday, we have Mercury completing its return to Bitcoin's natal Mercury. And again, as Mercury is Bitcoin's Time Lord for the year, I do expect this to be a bullish move. On Saturday, Mercury has this wild little Mars Uranus sextile happening with Venus right behind, but Mars definitely has the upper hand, and that looks volatile. That looks like you want to keep an eye on your entries and your exits and mind your risk. But there could be, if you're really good with volatility, that could be a day for some big money. Sunday, we have Mars and Venus conjunct again, and then exactly sextile Bitcoin's Uranus, while Jupiter and Uranus are still sextile in the skies in general. And, this one does look like a big shoot up. So we're going to see what happens here. Mercury in Aquarius, I'm expecting to be rather bullish for Bitcoin, but we'll see. We'll play it by ear. I want to thank you guys for coming back. Again, I love to have you here so much. And I will see you here next week, and we will do this again.